Manhole thieves. Theft and bag snatching have been on the rise in busy areas like Shibuya and Ikebukuro lately, and it's often attributed to young thieves. However, the number of arrests made for these crimes is relatively low. The reason for this is because the young thieves are escaping through manholes in the city. In this way, they are able to disappear and avoid capture. Delving into the topic of Tokyo's massive underground tunnel network could take up an entire video of its own. And in Japan, there are books dedicated solely to the topic. But setting that aside, this legend specifically refers to manholes. This legend wouldn't work for other areas of Japan because most sewers are too small for anyone to escape through. Even a large city like Osaka has pipes that are only large enough to crawl or crouch through. Tokyo is one of the biggest cities in the world though, so of course it has massive sewers lying just under the surface that people could escape through if necessary, right? It's a scene not uncommon in movies and manga. The thieves disappear from sight by dropping into a manhole and make their grand getaway through Tokyo's massive underground pipe system, emerging somewhere far from the scene of the crime in complete safety. But is it true? Can people really escape through Tokyo's manholes? The answer is probably not. Manholes don't just lead to big empty pipes that allow people free access underneath the city. They lead to sewers, full of sewerage. That means they are literally full of water, urine, feces, and all the lovely smells that come with such a combination packed into tunnels and left to stagnate. Sewer pipes beneath Tokyo vary in length and size. In some areas, you can even take a tour if you're brave enough. As you might expect, they smell awful, and many leave promising never to go back again. They're full of insects feasting on the filth, and to get anywhere, you need to make your way through both them and the sludge, leaving you emerging on the other side, if you make it that far, looking and smelling like you literally just crawled through a sewer. Because you did. Not to mention the mere act of getting a manhole open in a city as busy as Shibuya and not have anyone see you is near impossible. It works well in film, like many other things, but in reality, escaping from police through Tokyo's sewer system is a no-go. You would have an easier time simply disappearing into the massive crowds, and smell better for it at the end as well. Wormburger. A boy was eating a hamburger at a famous fast food chain. As he was chewing, he glanced at the burger and noticed something like a red string hanging from the patty between the bun. What on earth was it? The boy stared at it, unblinking, and then spat the food out of his mouth before he could stop himself. To his surprise, it was the dried up remains of an earthworm. The boy rushed to the back of the store and silently showed a staff member the burger with the worm in it. In a panic, the staff member then ran into the back and returned with someone who appeared to be the manager. He was holding an envelope. "Please keep quiet about this," he said, and then handed the boy the envelope. Inside, there were 3 10,000 yen notes. According to the rumors, that hamburger shop was cutting costs by mixing earthworms into the patties. This particular legend, or at least variants of it, has existed all around the world for decades now. In Japan, it's believed it first started circulating sometime around the 1970s or so. Although earthworms ended up becoming the most common ingredient mixed into the patty meat to save money, during the mid-70s, it was actually said to be cat meat instead. Rumours spread that a customer peeked into the garbage behind a restaurant one time and saw it was full of cat heads. Another version claimed that a part-time worker opened a fridge he shouldn't have and inside found numerous cats. Although the circumstances were different, the one thing these legends all had in common was that the burgers were made from cats. Yet, this itself stemmed from another urban legend, known as the Shibuya Diner Cat, which in turn came out several decades before that. In the 1950s, rumours spread of a customer who visited a cheap, yet delicious, restaurant known as Shibuya Diner in Ginza. It was said that the customer tripped over something and knocked over a garbage can behind the restaurant. To their shock, numerous cat heads rolled out of the trash and landed on the ground. And so, rumours spread that this restaurant was actually using cat meat in their burgers, and people secretly dubbed them Nyan burgers. Of course, these were just rumours. But if Japan was full of rumours of Nyan burgers, how did the more modern legends switch to worms instead? Well, it's thought this version travelled to Japan via America. In the late 1970s, rumours spread that fast food chains were selling worm burgers. These were, of course, false. But the rumours have persisted over the years and periodically appear to fascinate a new generation with the threat they might be eating actual worms. When this legend travelled to Japan is unknown, but considering that Japan was talking about cats at the same time the United States was talking about worms, it was likely sometime in the 80s. And when you think about it, which is a grosser story to share? Eating Nyan burgers or eating worm burgers? It's no wonder the worm version became more popular, and the Nyan burgers were phased out. There's also a theory that because worms are unhygienic and dirty, these rumours took hold at a time American food, particularly fast food, was becoming far more pervasive in Japan. It was, in a way, an attempt to turn public opinion against it, to make people view it as unclean, dirty, junk food. Either way, worm burgers overtook Nyan burgers as the legend of choice, and even today, it still circulates in corners of the internet and is whispered about on school grounds. Water tank. There was an apartment complex, and in that complex there lived a young girl. When she went out to play one day, however, she went missing. Both her parents and the police looked everywhere they thought she might be, but in the end, they never found her. 3 months later, people who lived in the same building began to complain that the tap water was giving off an awful smell. The manager went to check on things, but day by day the complaints grew, and so he went up to the roof to check the water storage tank. When he opened the lid to the tank, his nose was assaulted by the foul smell of rotting flesh. Floating in the water was the body of a child. An autopsy revealed it was the girl who went missing 3 months earlier. It appeared the girl was playing on the roof when she looked in the open lid of the tank, under inspection at the time, and fell in. The people in the apartment complex had been drinking the water her body was floating in for 3 whole months. This urban legend is popular all over the world, not just Japan. The idea that one might be drinking contaminated water has surely crossed everyone's mind at some point or another. There are even real-world precedents for this tale. There's the death of Eliza Lam, a Canadian student who was found in the water tank atop the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles in 2013. She was reported missing a month earlier, and just like this legend, she wasn't found until the hotel guests started to complain about the water supply. In Indonesia in 2012, a man was also charged with murdering a maid and dumping her body in a rooftop water tank. Going back even further, the story Floating Water by Ningu author Koji Suzuki focuses on this very legend. Released in 1996, it was later turned into the movie Dark Water, in which, spoilers, it turns out there was a dead body in the water tank on top of the apartment complex all along. But we can find evidence in Japan of dead bodies in water tanks even earlier than this. It's common for the sites of murders and deaths to turn into ghost spots in Japan, but it's rare for such events to happen the other way around. In 1975, rumours started popping up in Chichibu, Saitama Prefecture, of a ghost wearing a black sweater. Story goes that a taxi driver came across her on the streets late one night, so he got out of his cab to check on her. When she turned around, however, her face was rotten and melting away. Rumours continued to spread, with many others claiming to have seen the woman with the melting face and black sweater. A stone was placed in the area with "A ghost appears here" written in chalk, and despite the fact no one touched it, the stone moved to a different area each day. It wasn't until 1977 that a firefighter went to check on a water tank near the Eifukuji Temple in Saitama. He was checking the tank for maintenance when he noticed a foul smell the moment he opened the lid. When he looked inside, he saw a dead body floating there. Just like the ghost rumours, the woman's face was melting off her body due to decomposition, and she was wearing a black sweater. The autopsy determined that she was a 21-year-old missing woman they called Y-san. The tanks were checked for maintenance once a year, and it was determined that she must have been placed in there shortly after its last check. These dates appeared to coincide with the first appearances of the ghost in the black sweater. The murderer turned out to be her then boyfriend, who was arrested just 3 days after investigations began. It's likely that the seed of this legend was planted in the minds of the public with this particular incident, and with Koji Suzuki's popular Dark Water in the late 90s, moving the action to a rooftop, a place that could affect nearly anyone at any time, cementing its status as an urban legend. But what did you guys think of this one? Are there any other legends you'd like me to explore? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to help support this channel so you can see more content like this, please consider hitting that join button down below as well. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys, and I'll see you again next time.